Hello, may this find you well wherever you are, wherever you're at, however you're doing today. It's Memorial Day, May 26, 2026, here in Wyoming, the United States. And I wrote this morning. I woke up and just blurted some stuff out because it's important that we realize this as I was going to say Americans. I'll later describe, we're United States citizens and we are part of the Americas, North, South, and Central America. So here we go. I'm sharing some things that have blew my mind and some stuff that I appreciate and has helped me in my life and along my journey. In honor of Memorial, good start. In honor of Memorial Day, let's choose to honor the good, as Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, whose name was later translated to Jesus, spoke about this good, the good, or the God within, not some external things. We're all extensions of the divine. That's much more empowering, and a more empowering message that we're, a lot of people are taught with different kinds of religions. And the point was to get you separated from your own power, because then you have a direct connection with God, because you do, not being exploited. Anyway, never getting in a fight through aggression, but for defense only. A lot of aggressors are bullies, and we all know what happens to bullies. A lot of bullies have gotten bullied to begin with, rather than maturing, doing their own inner work, healing, and facing their own shit. They project their own crap onto others and attack them because of a rooted in insecurity, or you're not enough, or whatever the heck it is. We all can struggle with stuff like that. A lot of immature men, tyrants in positions of authority today, are bullies, lying to the masses, sending them off to war, and personally profiting at others' expense. Going to war for oil, for example, to get more money for themselves and oil executives that support their corrupt regime, not for the people of either country in the made-up conflict. It was made out of nothing because a boy in a man's body behaved like a baby bitch, and that's been so normalized in our society, nobody stopped him. Thankfully, more of us are becoming aware of these corrupt people and structures, manipulating and having authority over others. Screaming fake news, for example, when they and their friends are buying the mainstream media channels and are the ones producing propaganda and fear-based fake news themselves, saying they're going to war to save oppressed people, then threatening those same people they said they were saving, threatening the entire civilization to bend to their will days later. They said, oh, we're going to save you, we're here to save you, but... Sometimes things need to get so bad for people on a personal level that they are blown out of their own personal bubble of stupidity, and they have no other choice but to wake up to certain realities that they were willingly or ignorantly blind to before. So, with Memorial Day today, my father and grandfather were both in the military. I never joined any military branch because I wanted freedom to honor myself and my dreams and do good. I did not want to risk my life for the whim of some immature person or president in an authority position, behaving like a baby bitch, narcissist, or tyrant, sending less fortunate people to die for their own benefit and selfish reasons. My dad was born in Poughkeepsie, New York, and he was raised very poor in Montreal, Canada. He said he didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. He wanted to come back to the States to get out of the situation he was in, and being a U.S. citizen, he was able to join the Navy as soon as he could at the age of 17. Right before he left, he took a bus from Canada to San Diego in basic training. Right before he left, his grandmother, who I'm named after, gave him her fortune, gave him a fortune, how he described it, of $50 to get on a bus, to get his bus ticket, and to tide him over until basic training started. My father and grandfather never saw war. They never saw war. They came of age, or like they were never in direct conflict. They came of age right after World War II and were able to get or create good jobs for themselves after they served, after their service. I was fortunate enough to have options growing up. I didn't need to go into the military because of financial constraints. I'm having a side note here. I just learned something about money and templates. I'll put a timestamp on the screen. You can fast forward if you want. I want to share what I learned recently about money templates. Templates, if you don't know, are things we've been taught, or societal, cultural, or religious norms we've grown up in that we're expected to conform to, even if it benefits only a select few at the expense of all else. Even if we're unconscious of these templates too. The point is to become conscious of these negative patterns and transmute them for your highest good and the highest good of others. These templates are still in our DNA, our family lineages, and our body memory, and they can be a blockage, and or a source of fear when it comes to changing a job or going out on your own and risking some financial security over staying in a place that you've outgrown or that negatively impacts you. So historically, a man's relationship with money has to do with access. The more money you have, the more access you have to different things, to marry into a wealthy family, to be more protected or insulated from certain things. The less money you have, the more exposed or expendable you are, or historically have been. In many cases, the poor are the ones with not a whole heck of a lot, that were just kind of surviving, were the first ones that were sent to the front lines of a war. Now, as opposed to men having money giving them access to certain things, for women, the relationship with money had to do with survival. In parts of the world, women were not allowed to have their own bank accounts or own property because they were considered property in patriarchal structures. It was only in 1974 that it was a federal law, with the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, ECOA, that women could have bank accounts. California, in 1862, over 100 years before, had enough common sense to be like, oh yeah, women can have their own bank accounts. This is just, it's baffling. I know I talk a lot about, to me, what seems like common sense, and still, like, it's important to say, it's important to talk about, especially I incarnated as a man, as a white man, and it's, as a white male, straight male, we ought to speak up towards certain things and hold people accountable. If there's a bully or if there's someone oppressing another, they deserve to be held accountable, and we deserve to stand up. I like this saying, if you intend to do good, the entire universe and armies of angels are at your back helping you. I'm going to continue. In Europe, during the witch trials, a lot of independent and wealthy women were labeled witches as an excuse to kill them because they threatened the patriarchal government and church. The church, using Yeshua, Jesus' name, going directly against his true teachings, that everyone has a divine spark, that the kingdom of heaven is within them, within you. not needing any outside approval, middleman, or authority structure to worship, grovel to, or get approval from. It's all within you. God is within you. Jesus, I think it's funny. Jesus, Yeshua does not want him to worship you. That is other people's doing. It's the Roman Empire who helped put that into practice. That was their own beliefs. He wants you to become empowered yourself. He is a divine teacher, and he walks alongside you. You don't worship him. You are worthy, for example, not less than needing approval or to be told you're good, or you need to be saved and then this, or you need to do this and then you'll go to heaven. That's all corrupt power structure meant to manipulate and control. The church and governments made a lot of money off of stealing from people and oppressing them while abusing and misusing divine teachings, twisting the teachings, removing some teachings, and then inserting their own propaganda. Powerful women who were chosen by their family as the fittest to receive the family inheritance were labeled witches by communities or even by parts of their own families so that their wealth could be stolen. Once again, it was a huge threat to the church and certain crowns or governments to have powerful women walking around. I'm just going to read this just because. Once again, it was a huge threat to the church who had misused and abused Yeshua's, Jesus' name and teachings, and to certain crowns and government systems to have powerful women walking around. Yeshua preached the kingdom of heaven within, not needing to be saved, but to remember or reawaken to our internal, eternal power and divine connection and light, and to shine this divine light. A true baptism is remembering who you and others truly are, not thinking you're better or more spiritual than others because you believe a certain thing or live a certain way or are a chosen person. We're all the chosen people. That's a trap many humans fall into, and they go directly against the teachings of their own religion, even. The true divine teachings are, we all have a positive gift to share that does not negatively impact others. However, that does not negatively impact others. However, anyone is incarnated in a physical body, free from shame, free from guilt, free from manipulation, coercion, and oppression. You are divinely incarnated. If you are made to believe you are not divinely incarnated, divine, we're all physical, we're all human, and we're all divine. The secret is embodying the divine while being physical, is merging the two, not starving yourself of certain desires or other things, but remembering who you are. If you are made to believe you're not divine, if you're gay, for example, who cares? Good for you. Jesus doesn't give a shit. It was immature patriarchs that either couldn't comprehend divine teachings or intentionally twisted divine teachings to benefit from the oppression of others. Now, that being said, there have been places on earth where there have been peace, balance, and people who lived in harmony with themselves, others, and the natural world, and we are nature. I'm going to list the 3 tenets of democracy from the Iroquois Confederacy. These different tribes who lived in the Great Lakes region had 500 years of peace before the United States colonized their lands. So I heard this from a mentor of mine, Randy Russell. Love you, Randy. Gray Eagle. And I have not done a whole heck of a lot of research on this, so let me know if there's anything to add or correct to this. But how I was taught about the three tenets of democracy. The Iroquois were some of the first that I know of that had a true democracy. And the United States, it's the 250th year. It's nice to learn different things rather than being in your own bubble. So the Iroquois Confederacy had peace, maintained peace, because of these ways for twice as long as the United States has been a country. The first tenet of democracy is no slavery. The second is the 7-generation law. 7-generation law to honor the land, not the resources, but the sources of life, in a certain way that 7 generations down the line will be able to enjoy as much, if not more, of life, of our Earth Mother, of this bounty that we are blessed to walk on. Our Earth Mother. Number 3 is the Council of Grandmothers. 12 true elder women, not children in people's bodies like we see a lot of elders today. They're not true elders. They're still, children mentally, but a true elder. 12 women make up the Council of Grandmothers, who have authority over any other person in a position of power, any other president, any other chief. And if you misuse or abuse your authority, you can be removed from power, never to hold it again. I heard it was a 3-strike rule, or, if you misuse or abuse your authority in any way, this matriarchal, or this Council of Grandmothers, stays rooted and grounded and can remove you from authority. I love that. Love it. We'd be doing a lot better today if those tenets of democracy were honored, and we can implement them whenever we wish. The people are more powerful than any government there is. And that's a truth. The fact, okay, now back to the original writing before my side note. The fact that we even have homeless veterans is despicable. Our country says we take care of you until you come back with PTSD or a few of your limbs blown off. No continued medical care or housing. I've met so many homeless veterans that were tricked by our government, that risked their lives and are left suffering without backup or straightforward access to care. This article I quickly Googled. I'm going to link it below, operationhomefront.org. There was a lot of other ones, but this article I quickly Googled gave some resources. If you are a veteran in need of some assistance, it can be a lot harder to receive assistance than it seems for people who don't know. So the link is below. Compassion, here's another point. Compassion and mental health needs to be normalized. And we all need to be educated on that. I was speaking with a Marine who was a medic. She saw her friends, other Marines, get blown apart. They came to her to get put back together. She saw horrible she saw horrible things none of us deserve to see. It took a toll on her mental health. Showing up day after day for a war that could be easily avoided, remedied, and didn't even need to happen in the first place. Day after day of stuffing feelings down takes a toll on people. Emotions are indicators to help you move how you wish to move. If you stuff emotions and feelings down, they build up and they explode in unexpected ways and are destructive. They can be very destructive in one's life. With U.S. military culture, she feared showing that she was struggling because she would get dismissed from service or judged rather than receiving the help she and others needed. She was not alone in the struggle. It's already 19 minutes in, man. Next, I'm gonna pause this because a neighbor likes to go fucking nuts on the throttle. So we're gonna wait a minute. Of a dirt bike. People drive dirt bikes responsibly and drive cars responsibly, for goodness sakes. Here's one thing with veterans with PTSD. You see all these knuckleheads. I feel like an old man saying that. You hopefully you don't feel all the knuckleheads, but you hear all the fucking knuckleheads driving, and they just, roar their engines or whatever the heck, and it's usually immature men that you see doing this, or young boys, and they think they're cool or whatever the heck. When I was a young man, I let off some steam by driving fast and all that stuff. However, all those noises can really trigger people with PTSD, veterans, and just a shout out to that, and a bit of compassion for people. I think a lot of people can relate with me about that. Okay, I lost my place here, but we're going back, and he's off in the distance, so thanks for being patient while I talk. The next point is a person who has seen combat cannot be expected to just come back home to their family or daily life and seamlessly integrate back into civilian life. In many instances, there is no going back from what people have seen and experienced. The expectation of a person who has witnessed combat, or even friends that have witnessed combat, to come back and function normally in society is bullshit. These people need patience, love, and care, while also holding everyone involved accountable. It's a balance, and part of this is simply being human. It's courageous to ask for help, and it is absolutely uncalled for to shame and guilt somebody when they're in need of help, spiritually, emotionally, or physically, in any situation. Yeah, I think enough is said there. I'll just get straight to the first book I wanted to mention is Nonviolent Communication. This speaks about how to navigate in the world without being a bully and negatively impacting other beings. It speaks about true freedom, balance, and harmony, rather than a lot of what we have seen, people talking about freedom and being hypocritical by then thinking it's okay and even actively participating or supporting in the oppression of other people. I'll leave that. I have a story to tell. When I was 18 and 19, I volunteered in Nicaragua, and I worked in Nicaragua for just a couple months, and it was this wonderful surf hostel that I volunteered for a month and a half, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna take 2 weeks to myself. So I worked at a hostel just for a room, and it was this gorgeous hostel right overlooking a beach, and I was a sous chef. I would help cook, and there would be a beautiful long table, and we would all, everybody that worked there and all of the guests and visitors and friends would come eat together from fresh food the owner went to the market and got every single day. And it was nice because the chef would put it all together, and I would just help out cooking. So I met the groundskeeper. He was an elder Nicaraguan man, and he looked all old and grizzled, and he had a great character. And he asked me, my Spanish was poor, I was learning, and he asked me where I was from, and I said I'm an American, like a lot of people in the United States. America! American! I can! He proceeded to speak to me in Spanish, and even though it was so simple, I did not understand him because it was a foreign concept to me. Someone had to explain to me and translate in English that he was saying we are all American, North America, South America, Central America, just because you're from the United States doesn't mean you're the only American. I think we could all take a fucking note from that. Egocentrism, only viewing the world through your eyes and your perspective, versus ethnocentrism, understanding other people's ethnicities and perspectives. Yeah, I'll leave that teaching for another time. So, to fully become conscious of ourselves and our surroundings, we must realize and come to terms with the United States as a colonizing nation. We United States citizens, individually and as a collective, get to realize and come to terms with the fact that the United States is a colonizing nation, and many of our lineages did the same crap that European colonizers were doing. That was part of the reason why our ancestors left Europe, to escape that oppression, and we have done the same crap that the oppressive Europeans were doing back in Europe. Rather than leaving this in the past and understanding the true nature of power, which is love, they got true power and authority confused and started stealing this land from the indigenous people and then oppressing them. Power versus Force is a good book that speaks about true power rather than forcing things. It's easy to be a stupid dingus causing harm and taking from others. That is not true power. Like the bullies we see in positions of authority, that is not true power. It's a little boy. Or immature people thinking, I'm gonna leave it. Okay, this next book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, is a great book about realizing oppressive systems one has lived in or lived under, and to become fully aware of the effect it's had on oneself, so one can transmute it, so one can do good rather than perpetuating oppressive systems, like thinking, oh, I'm going to come to power and, free the people, for example, and then continue to do the same crap because that's your only understanding of power. Another amazing book. Thanks Ethan Hawke and family for making this book. It's called Rules for a Night. This has helped me out a lot, and I gift this book to people. Every single person. Yeah, it has many good teachings in here, and everybody I've given that to has told me they've benefited from it. Back to the United States and the indigenous people of the Americas, the United States. Even if a tribe did agree to a treaty with the United States government, a treaty backed by the Constitution as the supreme law of the land, the United States still went back on their word and stole more land, not honoring the treaties. I think the term Indian giving is a funny projection onto Native people. I've heard white people, make comments on Indian giving where you give something and then you take it back, when that's exactly what the white people did to the natives. I was going to say not necessarily funny, just when the white man gave indigenous peoples their words and agreed that they would coexist honoring their own word and the natives, the same way many native tribes honored and respected settlers, even helping settlers learn how to work with the land and survive. So, President Andrew Jackson, for example, is still on the $20 bill. Andrew had his life saved by Native American warriors, yet years later, as the United States president, he authorized massacres and the forced removal and relocation of many tribes that is known as the Trail of Tears. Andrew, this immature male, went against the supreme law of the land along with basic human dignity. And we can change the image of him on the $20 bill very easily. People have advocated to put Harriet Tubman on the 20. That would be really, really nice. She worked with the Underground Railroad, was an abolitionist, a humanitarian, helped free a lot of slaves, and was a really cool woman. Fucking strong woman, stronger than many of these white little limp dicks, excuse me. The Wind River Reservation, for example, where I'm at, the Shoshone tribe, that this is their land. I'm even on their land right now. And I'm not on the what's left of the reservation, but this is a part of the original reservation that they were guaranteed by the supreme law of the land. The Shoshone were guaranteed 84 million acres in a treaty. Then a few years later, 82 million acres were taken because the government just wanted to. They left the people with only 2 million acres out of the 84 million. To add insult to injury, the Shoshone's historic enemy, the Arapaho, were being transported through the Wind River Reservation on a forced relocation, and the Shoshone were asked by the U.S. government if the Arapaho could winter on their reservation. They weren't going to make it in time to wherever they were going before winter hit hard. And then in the springtime, be moved to their own reservation. The Shoshone extended the olive branch. They got over their squabbles and said, you know what, yeah, we'll let our enemy stay here, and then they can move to their own reservation after the winter. So they let them stay the winter, and then when spring came, the U.S. government said there was no reservation for the Arapaho, that they were now sharing the reservation, the Wind River Reservation, together, because the hope was that they would fight one another so the government wouldn't have to. They wanted them to kill each other. Then a corrupt church and government was forced upon the natives, not letting them practice freedom of religion, their spirituality, which was, its freedom of religion is a constitutional right and an amendment. It's a cornerstone of our republic, our democracy. The indigenous people weren't allowed to speak their native language, and this is all across Canada and the United States, in boarding schools, or raise their children with traditional knowledge. There was a saying, kill the Indian and save the man. Yeshua, Jesus, would have walked alongside the people, not beaten their language and good ways out of them. But his name was used to oppress and colonize because of people's darkness, ignorance, and greed. We're setting the record straight here. And now that you know a bit more, you can be more empowered, hold people accountable, do good for yourself, and do good for us all. I'm just going to say this here. The Pope, the last Pope, I think Pope Francis, went to Canada, and I don't know if he went to the US, but he apologized for the boarding schools. It was a formal apology, and it was like, oh, big deal. The Pope apologized for all of these human rights abuses and for murdering and raping and killing people, and saying, oh, that's in the name of God. Oh, Jesus wants to. God wants to. Pope Francis apologized and said, that's not what the church stands for or stood for, when that is literally what they stood for their entire existence. I gotta say, this Pope now, I do not know him personally. However, he did say some great things about the current administration and also the regime, and certain tyrants running the world or calling the shots. So that is a very good quote. And he went on to speak about, at least what I read, about, you know, billions are being used. A lot of money is being fueled for war, is being used for war and for people to get rich, for a very select few to get rich at the expense of others. And, you know, they're even using Yeshua and God's name, being like, oh, this is a holy war, which is the same bullshit that it was hundreds and thousands of years ago. For example, just to remind you, the Romans, the same people who crucified Yeshua, are the same people who constructed the law of the land for Christianity and Christian religion. When Yeshua was speaking up speaking up about the true nature of the divine, not what the Hebrew text talked about, definitely not what the Hebrew text talk about, definitely not what the Bible speaks about. There's bits of truth, like I said, it was twisted. There's truth in it. There's great teachings. And then you have a bit of a twist in there. Like, women are meant to shut up and obey their husbands because that's the word of God, when God flows through every single person. Woman, trans, whatever the fuck. Doesn't matter. So the Pope, the new Pope, as of, it's 2026 right now, talked about how all that money was going for that stuff, for war, rather than truly helping the people. I mean, like, we can all help each other out. There's enough abundance to flow and for us to assist one another, as we've traded with each other for who knows how many thousands of years, rather than using it to oppress. And even though the Pope made this statement, great statement, who knows how much money the church has, and can help people without saying, oh, with this twisted teaching of you need to convert, let me help you with the guise of let's have you convert and then you'll really be saved, rather than doing what Yeshua and divine masters and teachers do, which is they take care of themselves. They help point the way for others. They take care of others. I like this, not in a way that's like, I'm gonna pull my lifeboat out and save everybody and then sink the lifeboat because you have too many people on it, but being a lighthouse, helping point the way. That's exactly what Yeshua taught. He pointed the way back to your own source, the source within you, the God within. So anyway, as much as people like to talk about freedom, liberty, and justice in the United States, here is to true freedom and liberty and justice for all. Thank you for watching, whoever stayed for 37 minutes, and I wish you love and peace and joy and positive purpose, and I hope that you're doing well wherever you are, whenever you're seeing this. Yeah, thanks. Take care.